Arthaya pratibodhitam bhagavata nandrayanena swayam vyasena gratitam purana munina madhye mahabharatam advaitamritavarshinim bhagavatim ashtadashadhyayinim Amba tvam anusandadhami Bhagavad Gita bhavadveshinim Namostute vyasa vishala buddhe pullara vindaya tapatra netra Yena tvaya bharata taila purna prajvalito jnanamaya pradipaha Prapanna parijataya totra vetraikapanaye Jnana mudraya krishnaya gitamrita duhe namaha Sarvopanishado gavo dogdha gopalanandanaha Partho vatsa sudhir bhokta dugdham gitamritam mahat Vasudeva sutam devam kamsachanuramardanam Devaki paramanandam Krishnam vande jagadgurum Bhishma drona tata jayatrata jala gandhara nilotpala Shalyagrahavati kripena vahani karnena velakula Ashwatthama vikarna gora makara duryodhana vartini Sotirna kalupandavaira nanadikaivartaka keshavaha Parasharya vachasaroja mamalam gitartha gandhotkatam Nanakyanaka kesaram harikatha sambodhana bodhitam Loke sajjana shatpadaira haraha pepiyamana muda Bhuyad bharata pankajam kalimala pradvamsina shreyase Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim Yat kripatamaham vande paramananda madhavam Yam brahma varunendra rudra marutastunvanti divyarstavaihi Vedai sangapadakramopanishadair gayanti samagaha Dhyanavastita tadgatena manasa pashyanti yogino Yasyantam navidusura suragana devaya tasmai namaha Shri Sadguru Maharaj ki jai. Hari Om. Good to see you, everyone. I missed you. I really missed you all week. I think when it comes again Monday, so we can meet again. Yeah. Last week I was telling you the story of Abhimanyu, who is the son of Arjuna, who was killed in an unfair battle. And I didn't record this part of the class, so I apologize for those who were not here last week. But the point was this: when Arjuna came back at the evening of the battle, and he heard that Abhimanyu, his son, was killed, he took a vow, he took an oath, and he said that tomorrow itself, I'm going to kill Jayadratha, who is responsible for the death of my son. We talked a little bit about it last time, but the point is that Arjuna took that vow that he will kill Jayadratha the next day. And then everybody understood that if Arjuna is not able to fulfill this mission, killing the person responsible for the death of his son Abhimanyu, then Arjuna will probably kill himself or just give up the fight, go away, and that will be the end of the battle for him, and that will be the loss of the Pandavas. Okay, that's where we left it last time. And this time, I don't want to read to you long stories. So I will tell you most of it just for my memory, and only the last part I will read to you because it is very long and complicated and so many names. And I just want you to understand the principles, the idea. I want you to get the feeling of the story of the Mahabharata, which is so beautiful and so important, in my opinion, in understanding the teachings of the Mahabharata. Okay, we can study the Bhagavad Gita and we can understand so many things, but if we know the story and understand the story, first of all, what is happening there, and then also what it symbolizes, what it is standing for, then we can get, I think, so much more from the text from the Gita. Okay. Now, this Jayadratha was a king, and his father's name was Vridhakshatra. That was the father of Jayadratha. Arjuna vowed to kill him. But before, I have to tell you, when he was born, the astrologer of the family told his father, your son is going to be killed in the battlefield. You know, and I told you already that for a Kshatriya, it is considered to be a great honor to die on the battlefield. You go straight to heaven, and it is wonderful. But the father was not very happy about the idea that his son is going to be killed by someone, so he pronounced a curse. And the curse was, whoever is going to, actually, the astrologer told him that in the battlefield, the head of his son will be chopped. So he said, whoever is going to make the head of my son fall to the ground, may his head burst into 100 pieces. That happened when Jayadratha was just born. Okay, now Jayadratha is in the battlefield. He was responsible, according to Arjuna, to the death of Abhimanyu, and he knows that Arjuna is going to kill him. So he goes to Duryodhana and says, I'm going home. I didn't come here to die. I know my father got the prophecy that I'm going to die in the battlefield, and kind of I don't like it to be tomorrow. So I'm going home. But Duryodhana says, no, stay, it will be okay. We will put all the army to protect you, and Arjuna has no chance to do it, and just stay behind. And finally he managed to convince him, and they arranged the army in such a way that there was 12 kilometers of army soldiers between Arjuna and Jayadratha, protecting Jayadratha. In other words, Arjuna has to cross through 12 kilometers of warriors trying to prevent him from reaching Jayadratha, because they understood, if they are able to do it, Arjuna is out of the game. If Arjuna is out of the game, they may be able to win the war. Okay? And then the battle starts, and this is going on long. That's why I'm not reading it to you. So many things happen on that day. But Arjuna is pushing forward, and he's pushing forward. And finally, towards the evening, he managed to reach close to Jayadratha. Okay, and the idea is, I told you also before that in this age, the battlefield rules were saying that as soon as the sun set, as soon as the sun disappeared, the fighting should stop. There is no fighting during the night, only during the day. Okay, so the mission of the Kauravas is to keep Jayadratha alive until the sun sets, and the mission of Arjuna is to kill him before the sun sets. Okay, that's the whole game. You know? Now I'm going to read to you the last part. Okay, and There are some names and some things, whatever you don't know, just ignore, just listen, get the feeling for what is going on. The decisive hour has come, Karna, said Duryodhana. Okay, Duryodhana is the bad guy. He is telling to Karna, now is the time. If before nightfall this day Jayadratha is not slain, Arjuna will be disgraced and he will kill himself for not having redeemed his oath. With Arjuna's death, the destruction of the Pandavas is certain, and this kingdom will be ours in unquestioned and absolute sovereignty. Dhananjaya or Arjuna swore this impossible oath in a moment of thoughtlessness because the gods had willed it that he should be thus destroyed by his own hand. It seems my stars are now in the ascendant. We should not let this opportunity slip. We must see somehow that this challenge fails. The whole thing depends on you. Your great skill in battle is on trial today. Prove yourself this day. See, the sun has sloped down in the west. Within the little time left before nightfall, I do not think it is possible for Arjuna to reach Jayadratha. You, Ashwatthama, Shalya, Kripa, and I must guard Jayadratha and do all we can to see that he does not fall into Arjuna's hands during the next few hours before sunset. My king, Karna replied, I have been wounded all over by Bhimasena, and I am so weary that my limbs have no power in them. Still, I shall put forth all the strength that is in me. I only live to serve you. When Karna and Duryodhana were thus planning, Arjuna was engaged in a great attack on the Kaurava army and putting forth all his strength so that before the sunset, he could break through Jayadratha. You see, the drama is great, right? Krishna put his Panchajanya. Panchajanya is the name of the conch of Krishna. Krishna put his Panchajanya in his mouth and blew a loud note in the Rishabha Swara in a particular way, which was the signal for his own charioteer, Daruka, to arrive at once with his chariot. When it came, Satyaki took his place in it and attacked Karna vigorously and skillfully, keeping him fully engaged. Daruka's mastery of driving and Satyaki's archery were such as brought down the gods to witness the combat. Karna's 4 chariot horses were disabled and the charioteers was unseated. Then the flagstaff was cut asunder and the chariot was smashed. The great Karna stood chariotless and the event produced a great flutter in the Kaurava army. Karna had to run and climb up into Duryodhana's chariot. Sanjaya here tells Dhritarashtra, to whom he was relating the incident, the greatest adepts in archery are Krishna, Arjuna, and Satyaki. There is not a fourth to match them. Okay? Arjuna broke through the Kaurava opposition and reached Jayadratha. Now Arjuna managed to reach, finally, to fight with Jayadratha. Inflamed by the thought of the slaughter of Abhimanyu, his son, and all the great wrongs inflicted by the Kauravas, Arjuna fought with fury. Savyasachin as he was. Savyasachin means someone be dexterous, it's called, somebody who walks with left and right equally. Savyasachin as he was, he discharged shafts from the Gandiva from his bow, now using one hand and now using the other, and struck terror and confusion among his enemies, who felt as if death has come to the battlefield with wide open jaws. It is only the poet of the Mahabharata that can describe the combat that raged between Arjuna and Ashwatthama and the other great warriors that protected the king of Sindhu. They fought fiercely, but were all defeated and could not prevent Arjuna from reaching Jayadratha. The attack on Jayadratha began, and the battle raged long. Both sides were constantly looking eastward, for the day was nearing its end. The Saindava was no mean foe, and taxed to the full, Arjuna's strength and skill were hard to put it. The sun sank towards the horizon and reddened, but the battle did not cease. There is but a very little time left. It seems Jayadratha has been saved, and Arjuna's challenge has failed. The vow is unfulfilled, and Arjuna is going to be disgraced, said Duryodhana to himself in great glee. Then there was darkness, and the cry went round in both armies. It is sunset, and Jayadratha has not been killed. Arjuna has lost. The Pandavas were depressed, and there was shouts of joy in the Kaurava army. Jayadratha turned to the western horizon, thought within himself, I am saved. For he did not see the sun then, and thought the time limit of danger from Arjuna was over. At that moment, however, Krishna said to Arjuna, Dhananjaya, the Sindhu Raja is looking to the horizon. I have caused this darkness. Remember, Arjuna is God himself. He said, I have caused this darkness. The sun is still up and has not set. Do your work. This is the moment for it, for Jayadratha is off his guard. A shaft flew from Gandiva, and like a vulture sweeping down on a chicken, carried away Jayadratha's head. Listen, Arjuna, cried Krishna, send your shafts in a swift relay so that the head may be supported from falling to the earth and borne into Vrida Kshatra's lap. Krishna tells Arjuna, Arjuna, be careful. The head should not go to the ground. Send arrows and send it all the way to the laps of Vrida Kshatra, the father of Jayadratha. He was, I forgot to tell you, he was now a retired king living in an ashram very close to the battlefield. Okay? And Arjuna sent his wonderful arrows, which carried away the head in the air. It was a strange sight. Vrida Kshatra was in his ashrama, sitting in the open, absorbed in his evening meditation with eyes closed. When his son's head, with beautiful black hair and golden earrings, gently dropped into his lap. The old king finished his meditation and got up. When the head rolled down and fell to the ground, and as ordained, Vrida Kshatra's head burst into 100 fragments. Jayadratha and his father together reached the abode of the brave. Keshava, which is Krishna, Dhananjaya, which is Arjuna, Bhima, Satyaki, Yudamanyu, and Uttamauja blew their conches, and Dharmaraja, who heard the triumphant noise, knew that it meant that Arjuna had redeemed his oath and that the Saindava had been slain. Then Yudhishthira led his army fiercely against Drona. It was nightfall, but on the 14th day of the battle, the rule of ceasefire at sunset was not observed. As the passions rose from day to day, one by one, the rules of the restraints broken down. So this is the story of Jayadratha. And there are so many points here that are interesting to note. But I want to talk about one thing. Krishna. Krishna is the great trickster. You know, the Bhagavad Gita, we chant every time. Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre. And it is all about dharma. Okay, it is dharma kshetre kurukshetre. This is how the Bhagavad Gita is starting. In the battlefield of Kuru, which is the battlefield of dharma. Dharma means righteousness. This whole scripture is about righteousness, right conduct. How should you live your life? And who is the greatest character of all? This is Lord Krishna. And while everyone, even the bad guys, they have honor and they keep their word and they are honest and they try to do the right thing, Krishna, God himself, is lying, tricking, going with dirty tricks against everyone. This is only one example. You know, according to the rightful battlefield, only when the sun sets, the battle will end for that day. And Jayadratha saw that there is no sun anymore. He thought he is saved. And Krishna told Arjuna, take advantage of his ignorance and just hit him now, because I made it to look like this. It didn't really happen. The sun didn't set. And the question is, what is it all about? What is it all about? And the answer is, I don't know, but I can imagine. Okay? I can imagine. I had a group here today coming, and this point came about. The spiritual life is about breaking concepts, you know, or maybe I would say first it is about building up right concepts and then breaking them down. You know, we are on the spiritual path. We have to cultivate dharma. It is true. We have to build up our character. We have to do the right thing. But that sometimes is also leading to fixation. It is leading to some narrowness of mind. It is leading to some death of our inspiration. You know, when we are so busy with the letter, with the written letter, with the written law, just being on the right side of the law and missing the spirit of what is behind, it becomes a problem. And in the Mahabharata, the one who represents this is Bhishma. Those of you who are here for a while, you know the story of Bhishma. Bhishma was a great man. He was the son of Ganga, and he was trained in Dharma in heaven itself. It's a long story. But the point is, he was an expert of Dharma, and he knew all the rules and all the scriptures, and everything was very clear to him, and he would not budge even a millimeter from Dharma. So stern. If you understand the story of the Mahabharata, the whole war took place because of him. Everything that went wrong because of Bhishma. His strict adherence to the rule, without any compromising, without any understanding of the situation, caused all the troubles. And therefore, Bhishma is finding himself fighting along with the Kauravas, fighting with the bad guys. You know also that the Bhagavad Gita is a symbology, right? It's a symbology for the inner struggle between our higher nature and lower nature. We know that, we learn that, right? And the Kaurava army represents our lower nature. The Pandava army represents the higher nature, right? And each warrior, mostly the main warriors, represents one quality, right? And the question is, if Bhishma represents Dharma, why is he fighting with the Kauravas? Why adherence to Dharma is considered to be a lower nature? And the answer is, to my understanding, is that when adherence to Dharma become fixated become blocked, become just going by the letter and not by the spirit, just going by the scriptures without looking left and right and understanding the situation, then it becomes a problem. It becomes a problem. A yogi has to build up his character and then break it down. Break it down doesn't mean to do wrong. Break it down means to be present, to understand the situation, to see what is going on, to see what is, and act accordingly, to break all concepts, to break all ideas and be real, be true to the cause, understand, have a deeper understanding. And this is what Krishna represents. Krishna is God. He knows everything. He could do everything else. He could make everything in a different way. He didn't have to use these tricks, but he's using them. In the same way, in our spiritual path, we have to stay alive. We have to look to the letter, but also to the spirit. We have to understand what is required, and we have to act, breaking our concepts, breaking our ideas, becoming nobody, becoming an empty vessel and not somebody who is full of rules and ideas and concepts. And you know, it's very difficult to speak about it because in the name of this, people can do a lot of wrong, right? People can use this as an excuse to do wrong. But the fact that people can use it as an excuse doesn't mean that it is not the truth. You know, we have to be flexible. We have to be agile. We have to see what is in front of us. And this is what Krishna represents. And then on a more symbolical level, we can say that in this battle between the higher mind and the lower mind, there are no rules. We use whatever we can in order to strengthen our higher nature and to trick our lower nature. You know, like japa, mantra repetition. It is a trick to keep the mind occupied. It is a trick. It's not a fair dealing. We don't control the mind. We just stick to one mantra. Something like this, you know. In this sense, in this spiritual battle, this spiritual growth, we have to use whatever we have, even if it is trickstery, in order to strengthen our higher nature on the account of the lower nature. I had a discussion with a friend. It was this morning, actually, on the phone, about this idea of battle, because many people don't like this idea of battle, and we discussed it. Those of you who are here for a while, you know it. The Bhagavad Gita is a battle, is taking place in a battlefield. And why? We don't like fighting. There are no winners in fighting. Everybody loses in fighting. It is our higher principle is non-violence, ahimsa. Why Vyasa has to put the Mahabharata in as Krishna and Arjuna sitting, watching the sunset and discussing about elevated concepts. But no, he put it in the battlefield. Why? Because our life is a battlefield. We have to admit it. We have to recognize it. It's a battlefield between the lower nature and the higher nature. It is a constant struggle. If we ignore it, if we try to pretend that life is only rosy, cheeky, beauty, wonderful thing, we are just going to end up breaking our nose, you know, falling on our face. But a yogi is someone who stands up, fearless, and strive, and walks, and do what is necessary to move on, to go up. I always say, and I told you, probably you heard it many times, flowing, you know, is always downwards. People say, I want to flow, I want to go with the flow. Well, flowing is always downwards. If you want to go upwards, you have to paddle, you have to swim, you have to strive. It's like that. And that's why it is in the battlefield. And this battlefield represents the inner struggle, and it represents our lives also. If you don't have any struggle right now in your life, you can leave the class and go. I will not be upset. Right? We all have our struggles, and we all have to face them. Okay? And this is what this is all about. This is what it is all about. And this is the value that I find in this text, in the Mahabharata. Read it if you have the chance. You will really enjoy it. Okay? Wonderful. Now, finally, we are going back to the text. Okay? Last time, which was 2 weeks ago, we ended up with verse number 34, which is the end of Krishna's speech. Krishna was telling Arjuna, whether you fight or not is irrelevant. The battle is already decided. I have shown you the result of, in your vision, you have seen the result of this battle. So you have the choice. If you choose to take part in it, you will get the fame, you will get the kingdom, you will get whatever, good karma. If you choose to go, you will not save anyone. You will just, you yourself will have disgrace. Do what you want. That's what Krishna tells Arjuna. I will just read the running translation of verse 34. Drona, Bhishma, Jayadratha, Karna, and other brave warriors, these are already slain by me. Do thou kill. Be not distressed with fear. Fight, and thou shalt conquer thy enemies in battle. Okay, this is the end of Krishna's speech. And now today we are continuing in the next verse, verse number 35 in chapter 11 is Sanjaya speaking. Finally, we see Sanjaya again. Who is Sanjaya? Do you remember? I will tell you briefly for those who were not here. Sanjaya is the narrator of the story. Actually, what happened is that before the war started, the blind king Dhritarashtra is very worried. Okay? And to him comes Vyasa. He is the author of this book. And he tells Dhritarashtra, there is going to be a big war between your sons and the Pandavas. Even though you are blind by birth, I can give you your eyesight. I have the power to give you your eyesight, and you will be able to see what is going on in the battlefield. And Dhritarashtra says, no, I don't want to see this. I prefer to remain blind. But you can give this boon, you can give this power to my advisor, Sanjaya. Give him this eyesight. It's not a normal eyesight, it's a special eyesight that he can see simultaneously everything that happens on the battlefield, and even can see what happens in the minds of the warriors. You see, in this battle, about 4 million soldiers fought and died. 4 million. The battlefield was huge. It was insane. But Sanjaya had the capacity to see everything simultaneously. And then on the 10th day of the war, on the 10th day of the battlefield, Sanjaya is coming to the palace in Hastinapura to the blind king Dhritarashtra to report what happened. And the Bhagavad Gita is his report. Okay, what we call the Bhagavad Gita is part of the report of Sanjaya to Dhritarashtra. Okay, that's why the Bhagavad Gita starts Dhritarashtra Uvacha. Dhritarashtra said, he is asking Sanjaya, Sanjaya, tell me what is going on in the battlefield. And the whole text is the reply of Sanjaya. The whole text, 700 verses and on. So Here, finally, after a long time, we see again Sanjaya. He is the narrator. He is speaking. What does he say? Sanjaya uvacha etat shrutva vachanam keshavasya kritanjalir vepamana kiriti namaskritva bhuya eva krishnam jagadgadam bhita bhita pranamya. Sanjaya uvacha. Sanjaya said. Uvacha is a Sanskrit form when you speak about something that happened in the far past. It's not a normal past. It's something that happens in the far past. It is in this form. So it is uvacha. He said. What Sanjaya said? Etat shrutva vachanam keshavasya. Etat shrutva, having heard that, vachanam means speech, having heard that speech, keshavasya, of Keshava. Who is Keshava? Keshava is Lord Krishna. Keshava means somebody who has a very beautiful long hair. Okay? This is Krishna. So Arjuna, having heard that speech of Krishna, what speech? What we have seen in the last few verses. Kritanjalihi. Krita Anjali. What is Anjali? This is Anjali. Okay, he joined palms. Okay, Krita Anjali. He has joined his palms. And Vepamanaha, trembling. You remember Arjuna is in great fear. Arjuna is seeing a vision. In the beginning, the vision is so inspiring and so beautiful, but then it turns into something terrible. And Arjuna, the great warrior, is trembling, he's shaking with fear. Vepamanaha, Kiriti. Kiriti is another name of Arjuna. This is the first time we see this name. So Arjuna, Kiriti, having heard that speech of Krishna, is trembling, joining his palms in a prayer. Namaskritva. Namaskritva. Namaha. Namas means prostration. Namaskritva. He is prostrating or bowing his head. Bhuya eva. Again and again. Again he is bowing to Krishna. Eva aha Krishnam. And he said that to Krishna. Now Arjuna is going to speak. Sagad Gadam Bhita Bhita Pranamya. Sagad Gadam means with a choked voice. Swami Shivananda will explain to us about this choked voice, but Arjuna's voice is choking. Bhita Bhitaha, overwhelmed. Pranamya, and he is prostrating again. Having prostrated to Krishna with a choked voice, he is speaking to Krishna. Okay, Arjuna, in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna is in crisis. Okay, he's in crisis, he doesn't know what to do, he is lost, he is shaking. There also he is shaking and trembling. And then Krishna starts to speak to him, to encourage him, to tell him so many spiritual things. And Arjuna is so inspired and so happy that he says, Krishna, I want to see you, show me yourself. And Krishna is showing him that Vishvarupa Darshana, and Arjuna is happy, happy, happy. But then suddenly he turns into fear, and now again he is trembling. He is trembling with fear. And he is prostrating to Krishna and saying, before we see what he is saying, I want to read to you what Swami Shivananda says. When anyone is in a state of extreme terror or joy, he sheds tears on account of pain or exhilaration of spirits. Okay, either you are very afraid or very happy, you shed tears. You have tears that comes either from pain or from exhilaration of spirit. Then his throat is choked. When you have tears, your throat is choked, you cannot speak very clearly. And he stammers or speaks indistinctly or in dull, choked voice. You know, my teacher, Swami Chaitanyananda, very soon, it's going to be 20 years since he passed away in August, 30th of August. It will be exactly 20 years since he passed away. But I still remember when he used to speak about certain people, I will tell you some of them, his voice will change. You know, having been with him so much, heard him speaking so much, there were certain people, whenever he speaks about them, his voice changes. And I know it is like that, shocking. It was a subtle, but it was so distinct. So when he speaks about Swami Shivananda, also about Swami Chidananda, which is the successor, when he speaks about Gandhi, about Ramana Maharshi, and about a couple of more people, which are less known. Whenever he will speak about them, and he used to mention them a lot and tell many stories, I could feel how his voice changes. I never saw him crying or anything. He was so sphinx. He was never showing much emotion, but you could see, but only by the change of his voice. So when I read this, Arjuna is a choked voice. It is reminding me of that. Arjuna was extremely frightened when he saw the cosmic form, and so he spoke in a stammering tone. There is great significance in Sanjaya's words. 2 weeks ago, I told you this, but now I will read it in Swami Shiva. I will read it. I think I read it to you, but I will read it again. There is great significance in Sanjaya's words. He thought that Dhritarashtra may come to terms or make peace with the Pandavas when he knew that his sons will certainly be killed for want of proper support when Drona and Karna would be killed by Arjuna. Swami Shivananda explains, it is Sanjaya speaking to Dhritarashtra, the blind king, right? Sanjaya is a very good guy. Even though he was the advisor of Dhritarashtra, belonging to the bad guys, Sanjaya was a very good guy, and he was trying all the time to prevent the war. And Sanjaya felt that Dhritarashtra has the power to stop the war. Dhritarashtra was indecisive. He knew that his son Duryodhana is crooked, but he had great attachment to him. You see, why Dhritarashtra is blind? Blindness represents attachment, okay? Or attachment is a form of blindness. When you are attached to something, you are blind to the truth. You know that what you do is wrong, you still do it. You know that your favoring of that person is wrong, still you do it. This is attachment. And this is what Dhritarashtra represents. And Sanjaya is trying to tell him, hey, come on, you have the power to stop the war. If you step up and stop it, it will stop. And Swami Shivananda says, Sanjaya here feels that if Dhritarashtra knows that Drona and Karna and all these great warriors will be killed by Arjuna, as Arjuna has seen in his vision, and as Sanjaya is telling Dhritarashtra, then Dhritarashtra will understand that his sons are all going to die. And maybe that will propel him, maybe that will push him to step out and say, enough, enough is enough. This is the psychology of Sanjaya when he's speaking to Dhritarashtra. Make sense? He hoped that consequently there would be peace and happiness to both the parties. But Dhritarashtra was obstinate. He did not listen to this suggestion on account of the force of destiny. So Dhritarashtra did not take the hint. The force of destiny caused by Krishna. Remember, that was the war that helped Krishna to fulfill his promise to Mother Earth, right? So that's why it didn't happen. But it is interesting to see the psychology behind the small details in the Bhagavad Gita. You know, when you study the scripture, go quickly and you have no time to get into it. But when you go slow, when you stop, when you analyze, when you think about it, you can see some beautiful psychology which is behind everything that is happening. Now Arjuna is speaking again to Lord Krishna. This is verse number 36. Arjuna uvacha sthane rishikesha tava prakirtya jagat prarishya dyanuradyate cha raksham sibita nidisho dravanti sarve namasyanti cha siddha sangaha. You may hear that the meter in these verses that we are chanting is a little different than the meter in most of the Bhagavad Gita. You know, the Bhagavad Gita is a metric poetry, which means that in every line there is the same number of syllables. And that's why we are able to chant it like this. But most of the verses are in the Gayatri meter. There's a particular meter which is called Gayatri. And it goes like this. Dharma kshetre kurukshetre saveta yuyutsavaha mamaka pandavaschaiva kima kurvata sanjaya. But here, if you try to chant in this tune, you will not be able to do it because there are more syllables in each verse. So you have to chant it. This is a different meter. I forgot its name. You have to chant it in a different meter. And that's why we can chant it like Sthane Rishikesha Tava Prakirtya Jagat Prarishya Dyanuradyate Cha. You see, it is longer. I don't know if you are able to notice, but when you study the Bhagavad Gita, you may see that these verses that come in a very long form in the different meter, maybe they are not just randomly there. You know what I mean? They are not random. The idea of here it is this length and in other places it is the normal one. It is only my imagination, but my feeling that it has to do with the state of mind of the author, which is Vyasa. Vyasa is composing these verses. And whenever he is inspired, whenever he is more excited, whenever he is more moved, then he tends to go into this longer meter. So in most of the Bhagavad Gita, you see these long meters in a couple of verses scattered in different places, in pivot places, in some special places. But when you come to chapter 11, after I think like 11 verses of the normal meter, suddenly it moves into this long meter, and for almost until the end of the chapter, we find this longer meter. And this is, in my imagination, is because Vyasa is in a different place. Vyasa is fully inspired. He's seeing what Arjuna is seeing. Vyasa himself is seeing the Vishvarupa Darshana. You understand? Whatever Arjuna is seeing, Vyasa is able to see. And therefore, he is so inspired, and therefore, chapter 11 is a chapter which is with long meter. Okay? That's at least my interpretation. Okay? Now, what Arjuna says? Sthane Rishikesha Tava Prakirtya. Sthane means it is right, it is proper. Rishikesha. What is Rishikesha? Rishikesha is a name of Lord Krishna. Rishika, Isha, or Rishikesha. There are two ways to understand, to interpret this name. Rishikesha is a name of Krishna, and one meaning is Rishi Kesha. Kesha means hair, You remember we said Keshava, one who has a luxurious hair. Rishikesha means thick hair. Somebody who has a very thick, a lot of hair is also Rishikesha. But also you can break this word, Rishika, Isha. Rishika are the five senses, and Isha means the Lord, the God of the senses. One who has full control over the senses is Rishikesha. Now, in Hindi, they always cut the last vowel, and therefore, instead of Rishikesha, they say Rishikesh. Right? Have you heard about Rishikesh? Rishikesh is a place not very far from where I am now, but it is not named after Krishna. Actually, it is named after a rishi whose name was Rishikesha, and he was named after Krishna. But it is a place which is named after a particular rishi who was also called Rishikesha. Anyway, Arjuna says, Stane Rishikesha tava prakirtya. It is right, it is proper that everyone prakirtya is praising you. Okay, it is right, it is proper that you are being praised. By whom? Jagat. Jagat means by the world. It is proper, it is right that the whole world is praising you. Prarishyat. Prarishyat, the whole world is delighted praising you. Praising you, everybody is so happy. Prarishyati. Anurajyate. Anurajyate also rejoicing, that everybody is rejoicing. It is proper that everybody is rejoicing and delighted in your praise. Something like this. Then also, what about the other guys, the bad guys? He says, Rakshamsi, Bhitani, Disho Dravanti. Rakshamsi, Rakshasas. Rakshasas means the demons. The demons, those who are not worshipping you, who are not on the right side, Bhitani, full of fear, Dishaha, on all directions, Dravanti, they run. They run, they fly in all directions. This is again what Arjuna is seeing. Okay, he sees the demon flying in all directions, and the rishis and all the worlds and all the good people, they are praising God and they are very happy. Sarve namasyanti, all of them are prostrating before you. Cha siddha sangaha, and also those hosts of perfected ones, they are also prostrating before you. Okay, so I will read to you the running translation. It is meet, O Krishna, that the world delights and rejoices in thy praise. Demons fly in fear to all quarters, and the host of the perfected ones bow to thee. Okay, this is the translation. Arjuna is in awe. He is shaking with fear, but he is also with awe with the form of the Lord, what he sees. Swami Shivananda says, praise means description of the glory of the Lord. The Lord is the object worthy of adoration, love, and delight, because he is the self and friend of all beings. He says the Lord, God, deserves all our praises, all our love, all of our delight. Why? Because God is your own self. You see? God is not a guy, he's not somebody in the sky. It is your own self. And that's why it is praiseworthy. Well, that's why you should be delighted. He is the self and the friend of all beings. He is also the friend of all beings. It is in the last verse of chapter 5. Krishna says, Bhoktaram yagya tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram. I am sarvaloka maheshwaram. I am the Lord of all the beings. And Bhoktaram yagya tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram. Suridam sarva bhutanam. And I am the bosom friend of everyone. I am the friend and the Lord of everyone, and I am the self of everyone. You know, it depends in which way you want to address God. You see, some people have a difficulty to talk about God. Who is this God? I don't believe in God. What is this idea of some old guy governing everything? I don't relate to it. Somebody came to Swami Shivananda and said, I don't believe in God. Swami Shivananda answered, that God you don't believe in, I also don't believe in him. Right? Because when you have a concept, that concept is nothing, it's just a concept. So you don't want to call it God, call it a self. It doesn't matter. But then also, there are people whose concept of God is as a friend. God is my own self, true, but it is manifesting as a friend that is guiding me, helping me, supporting me, somebody I can speak to. Now, can you say that one perception is superior to another? You see, this is something that I really want to press, the point I want to press, make people to understand. To have the concept that God is the self, to have the concept of oneness, of ultimate reality, is just another concept. Just like to have a concept that God is somebody outside who is governing everything, it is just a concept. The first one is also just a concept, and the truth transcends all concepts. If you think that your concept is better than somebody else's concept, it is just a concept. The truth is not a concept. It's not something of the mind. I'm not saying if it is something mysterious, or it's just concept is at the end of the day is a concept. And the truth must be underlying that. It must be beyond that. And therefore, never think that your concept is superior to somebody else's concept. Stick to your concept, use it in order to move forward, but don't feel superior to anybody else. Sometimes I feel jealous of people who are able to relate to God as a friend, as a lover, as a parent, as a child. You know, just some people, they see God as their best friend. They really talk to God, they relate to God. And I feel jealous. I say, wow, how great is that? Really, it is great. It is the ability to lose yourself completely in a friendship, in a connection, and having a concept which is so amorphic of some self, which is without form, it is so difficult to open the heart. It is so difficult to stay open and receptive with such a concept. So which one is superior? In chapter 12, we are going to see when we reach there, Arjuna is asking Krishna, which is better, to worship God with form or without form? And you know what is the answer? Wait and see. Wait and see. We are going to see when we reach chapter 12. Anyway, our time is up. I will just finish the last sentence of Swami Shivananda. The Lord is the object of adoration, love, and delight for the following reason also. He is the primal cause of even Brahma, the creator of the universe. Swami Shivananda says it because of the next verse. Okay, so God is the original cause of everything. We are going to see it next week when we study verse number 37. Okay. Asatoma sadgamaya tamasoma jyotirgamaya mrityorma mritam gamaya om purnamada purnamidam purnat purnamudachyate purnasya purnamadaya purnameva vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shri Sadguru Maharaj Ki Jai. Thank you very much. See you next week. Hari Om.